In 1977, while America was still reeling from Watergate, Vietnam, and a decade that fractured its trust in institutions, one film dared to suggest something unthinkable. What if the universe wasn't hostile, just waiting? Close Encounters of the Third Kind didn't explode onto screens with laser battles or comic book heroes. It crept in quietly through flickering lights, humming power lines, and a suburban father who couldn't explain why a shape in the sky had just rearranged his entire life. This wasn't a monster movie. It was a story about obsession, about a man willing to dismantle his own normalcy because something beyond logic called his name. And that choice, human longing over alien invasion, changed Hollywood forever. But here's what most people don't realize. The film we remember almost never existed in this form. 1. The 2.5% gamble that turned friendship into fortune. The most shocking fact about Close Encounters of the Third Kind isn't about aliens, it's about leverage. During production in 1977, a nervous George Lucas visited Steven Spielberg, convinced his own film, Star Wars, might fail. Spielberg, meanwhile, believed Close Encounters would be the bigger hit. So, they made a gentleman's wager. Each took 2.5% of the other's movie. It sounded symbolic at the time, two young directors hedging faith against uncertainty. Then, Star Wars detonated the box office. That modest exchange became one of the most profitable creative handshakes in Hollywood history. Cause and effect are brutal here. Mutual doubt led to shared ownership. Shared ownership led to generational wealth. But more importantly, the deal reveals something about Spielberg's confidence in his story. He wasn't chasing spectacle. He believed in emotional resonance. And that belief, quiet, stubborn, personal, is what gave Close Encounters its gravity long before audiences ever looked up at the sky. 2. The ending you remember wasn't the original ending. Memory lies. And this film proves it. The 1,977 theatrical cut of Close Encounters ended with restraint. The camera never fully explored the inside of the mothership. Mystery remained intact, but studio pressure demanded more spectacle, leading to the 1,980 special edition that showed the interior. Spielberg later regretted it, feeling he had traded awe for access. A 1,998 director's cut restored balance. The cause was commercial expectation. Bigger equals better. The effect was creative distortion. When you reveal everything, you shrink imagination. Spielberg learned that lesson publicly. Many viewers swear they always saw the interior, unaware they experienced a revised cut. The film itself became a case study in how studios influence narrative identity. And the deeper lesson? Wonder depends on absence. The unknown sustains emotional electricity far longer than a guided tour ever could. Close Encounters survives because it eventually reclaimed what it almost gave away. 3. The mothership was inspired by an oil refinery. The mothership doesn't look aerodynamic, it looks alive. That design wasn't born in a think tank. It came from Spielberg driving past a glowing oil refinery at night. Thousands of lights layered over industrial chaos looked like a floating city. That image changed everything. Originally, spacecraft concepts leaned toward sleek geometry. Even early computer animation experiments were considered. But 1970s technology couldn't carry that vision convincingly. So Spielberg pivoted back to miniatures, dense, tactile, chaotic miniatures built from model kits and scrap parts. The cause was technical limitation. The effect was timeless authenticity. Because light hit real surfaces, the ship felt massive rather than digital. Nearly 50 years later, it still holds up better than many CGI spectacles. Constraint became advantage. When technology couldn't fake scale, craftsmanship created it. That decision didn't just save a production, it preserved the film's longevity. 4. Hollywood tough guys refuse to break down. Roy Neary is not a heroic role. He cries, he obsesses, he destroys his own stability. That vulnerability scared major stars. Steve McQueen reportedly declined because he didn't want to cry on screen. Gene Hackman passed. Jack Nicholson hesitated. The cause was image preservation. In the 1970s, leading men guarded masculinity carefully. The effect? Spielberg turned to Richard Dreyfuss, fresh off Jaws. Dreyfuss understood the paradox. Roy had to feel like a child, trapped inside an adult body. That interpretation unlocked the film's emotional center. Without that fragility, Close Encounters would have been spectacle without soul. Instead, it became a portrait of obsession tearing at domestic normalcy. The lesson here is sharp. Sometimes the actors who walk away protect a film from becoming something safer but smaller. 5. The film survived because Jaws exploded. Before Close Encounters became a studio priority, it was nearly abandoned. Spielberg first pitched it to 20th Century Fox and was rejected. Columbia Pictures picked it up cautiously. Then production stalled while Spielberg directed Jaws. When Jaws shattered records, everything changed. The cause was box office dominance. The effect was creative freedom. Columbia increased the budget and scale. What could have been a modest thriller became a sprawling spectacle anchored by Devil's Tower and massive hangars in Alabama. Hollywood respects profit. Success rewrites risk assessment. Jaws didn't just launch the blockbuster era, it gave Spielberg negotiating power. Close Encounters became bigger because fear of failure vanished. Ironically, the alien film about faith only existed in its full form because of a mechanical shark. 6. Spielberg rejected a military hero on purpose. At one stage, screenwriter Paul Schrader envisioned a political UFO thriller centered on a hardened Air Force officer. It would have been procedural, controlled, and authoritative. Spielberg refused. Cause: he did not want authority guiding the mystery. Effect: Roy Neary became an ordinary lineman. That shift changed tone entirely. Instead of institutional control, we witness personal unraveling. Instead of classified files, we get mashed potatoes sculpted into Devil's Tower. The brilliance of this decision is subtle. When the extraordinary invades the everyday, audiences see themselves. If the hero wore a uniform, the story would feel distant. By choosing a blue-collar protagonist, Spielberg grounded cosmic wonder in suburban fragility. The film became relatable rather than remote. That single casting philosophy redefined the narrative DNA. 7. The hangar was real and so was the risk. The climax required scale beyond illusion. Production found abandoned World War II airship hangars at Brookley Air Force Base in Alabama. Vast column-free interiors large enough to stage the arrival of the mothership. Cause: Spielberg wanted physical depth, not painted backdrops. Effect: the crew battled southern humidity, storms, and logistical chaos. Simultaneously, the production purchased and modified a real suburban house for Roy's breakdown scenes. That dual commitment to cosmic enormity and domestic authenticity created contrast that still resonates. The hangar feels cathedral-like because it was enormous. The house feels claustrophobic because it was real. Physical space shaped emotional response. Today's green screen convenience rarely replicates that tactile tension. Close Encounters feels grounded because it was. 8. The gentle alien changed sci-fi forever. The final encounter is not terrifying, it is tender. Italian effects master Carlo Rambaldi built an articulated alien puppet capable of subtle motion. Spielberg insisted the creature communicate curiosity, not menace. Cause: he wanted contact, not conquest. Effect: audiences experienced empathy. That emotional pivot planted the seed for E.T., the extraterrestrial. The friendly alien was no longer absurd, it was viable. In 1977, that was radical. Most alien cinema leaned toward invasion narratives. Close Encounters reframed the unknown as connection. The film's legacy lies not in its spectacle, but in its softness. It dared to suggest the universe might be reaching back. Close Encounters endures because it treats obsession as both loss and calling. Roy sacrifices domestic stability for transcendence. The film refuses to label that choice purely heroic or purely selfish. It simply presents longing as human. Each creative gamble, casting vulnerability, preserving mystery, rejecting military authority, building practical spectacle demonstrates a principle: authenticity sustains wonder. Spielberg trusted emotion over exposition. He protected ambiguity. He grounded fantasy in realism. The lesson for viewers, especially those who witnessed its original release, is clear. The unknown does not have to be conquered to be meaningful. Sometimes it only needs to be approached with humility. Nearly 5 decades later, the 5-note motif still hums in cultural memory. Not because it shouted, but because it listened. Close Encounters endures not because it gave us answers, but because it validated the question. It dared to suggest that obsession can be both destructive and transformative, that curiosity can cost you comfort, and that wonder is worth the risk of looking foolish. In an era when America felt uncertain about institutions, leadership, and even truth itself, the film quietly proposed something radical. Maybe the universe isn't indifferent. Maybe it responds to those who listen. Its legacy isn't just technical innovation or box office success. It's emotional permission, the idea that longing for something bigger than routine life is not madness, but humanity. That message still resonates, especially for those who remember seeing it the first time under theater lights in 1977. If this deep dive brought that feeling back, stay with us. Subscribe, hit like, and share your memory of the first time you heard those 5 notes. The sky still holds stories, and we're just getting started.